She smirked and said, "Stop acting like we're married. You don't control me, so stop pretending you matter that much." Everyone laughed. She thought it was a mic drop, but when she came back days later, she learned her key and her place were gone. What's up, Reddit? Ever had someone move into your place and slowly turn it into their stage while you're stuck paying for the whole production? Yeah, that was me. My girlfriend thought living in my house rent-free meant she got to call the shots. And then one night she said something that flipped a switch in my head. I didn't yell. I didn't fight. I just smiled, stayed quiet, and started planning. Let's just say by the time she came back from her little trip, my house didn't exactly look the way she left it. When you've been with someone long enough, you start keeping mental lists. Not of the good stuff, but of the things you ignore so you don't end up losing your mind. For me, Stella's list had been filling up for months. A little background. I, Isaac, 27 male, work as a graphic designer. I work from home, and my idea of excitement is messing around with fonts at 2 a.m. or trying to beat my personal best at parallel parking in front of the neighbor's house. I like things calm, predictable, and organized. Not because I'm uptight, it's just how I keep my sanity. Enter Stella, 25 female. We met 2 years ago at a friend's barbecue. She was loud, flashy, knew how to work a crowd. Everyone's eyes were on her, and she loved it. And yeah, I'll admit it. At first, that was attractive. She had this big energy, like she was allergic to being boring. Compared to my quiet life, she was like a firework. I thought maybe she'd pull me out of my comfort zone a little. Fast forward 6 months into her moving into my place, and it wasn't fireworks anymore. It was an ongoing circus I never bought tickets for. I pay the mortgage, the bills, even the Wi-Fi she abuses to FaceTime her 3 best friends every single night. I call them the Harpies. Tiffany, Brittany, and honestly, I still don't know the third one's name, so I just call her Chardonnay. The 3 of them sit around like they're auditioning for a laugh track, and Stella feeds off it like oxygen. She's the type who thinks buying a decorative sign for the front door with the Wilsons on it is a power move. Never mind the fact her name isn't Wilson, and mine is the only one tied to this house. She acts like just existing here makes her co-owner. Anyway, that night I was making dinner. Nothing special, just pasta with sauce. Stove bubbling, spoon in hand, me zoning out the way I do when I cook. That's when Stella came strutting in, already dressed like she was heading to Vegas for a photo shoot instead of to sit down and eat. Phone glued to her ear, voice louder than the TV. "Oh my God! Yes, I'm so in!" she yelled into the phone. "A bachelorette weekend is exactly what I need right now." I kept stirring, because in this house, if I stopped every time she said something dramatic, we'd starve. She hung up, spun around with this smug grin, and announced, "Good news! The girls and I are heading out for Tiffany's bachelorette trip. 4 whole days of glitter, sashes, and girl bonding. We leave tomorrow." That was it. No warm-up. No. "Hey babe, is that cool?" Just a flat announcement like I was her personal assistant who existed to log her schedule. I gave her the benefit of the doubt. "Okay," I said. "Sounds fun. Where's the party at?" Now, you'd think I asked her to recite Shakespeare in Klingon. Stella froze, tilted her head, and gave me a look like I'd just confessed to kicking puppies. Right then, the Harpies strutted into my kitchen uninvited, like they owned stock in my mortgage. I stopped stirring the pasta and looked straight at her. "Door must be broken," I said flatly. "Because last I checked, people knock before walking into my house." Tiffany blinked, fake smile plastered on. But before she could spit out some snark, Stella jumped in like I was the unreasonable one. She immediately turned to Tiffany, using me as a punchline. "Can you believe him? He wants to know where I'm going." I didn't let that slide either. "Correction," I said, leaning on the counter. "I'm not asking permission. I'm asking a simple question in the house I pay for. Big difference." Tiffany did the slow head turn, gave me a look like she just smelled spoiled milk, and then shrugged. That was all Stella needed. She planted her hands on her hips, smirk locked in place, and delivered the line. "Stop acting like we're married. You don't control me, so stop pretending you matter that much." The Harpies laughed like someone had just won them a free trip to Cabo. Stella looked proud, like she just delivered a TED Talk on independence. Here's the part most people don't get. I wasn't embarrassed, I wasn't crushed, I wasn't even surprised. This was Stella being Stella. Delusional, entitled, convinced she's the star of the show. So I didn't argue. I didn't defend myself. I just gave her a big, wide smile. The kind of smile you use when you're already 3 moves ahead in the game. "You're right," I said calmly. "My mistake." That threw her for half a second. Most guys would have blown up. I didn't need to. Why waste the energy? She'd already given me the best excuse I could ask for to end this whole thing on my terms. I wiped the sauce off the tile, leaned back against the counter, and smiled for real this time. Not married, no say. Got it, I said to myself. She thought she won. Cute. She had no idea the game had just ended, and I was about to collect the prize. The next day, Stella and the Harpies left like they were storming the runway of some knockoff Vegas show. It was Thursday morning, and they said they'd be gone until late Sunday. 4 days of bachelorette bonding, as Stella called it, though I was pretty sure that was just code for screaming into hotel hallways and leaving glitter in places janitors would curse about for years. I stood at the window and watched them disappear down the street. The second they turned the corner, the neighborhood got quieter, calmer. It was like the air itself exhaled. That was my cue. Step 1, get the right ally. Lucky for me, she lived right next door. Mrs. Gibson, 64 female, retired school principal, widow, sharp as a tack, and the unofficial surveillance system of our street. Nothing got past her. Amazon packages, late-night visitors, which neighbor's dog pooped on whose lawn. She kept score on it all. Most people probably thought she was just a nice old lady who liked roses. Wrong. She was a hawk in sneakers. I grabbed a slice of lemon cake from my kitchen, she liked that, and headed to her porch. She was already sitting out there in a lawn chair, watering can at her feet, sipping iced tea. She spotted me and smirked like she'd been expecting me. Well, well, she said, eyes narrowing. If it isn't the man with the patience of a saint and the girlfriend of a hurricane, what's the news? I laughed. You're not far off. Stella's gone for 4 days, bachelorette trip, but before she left, she dropped this little gem in front of her friends. Stop acting like we're married. You don't control me, so stop pretending you matter that much. Mrs. Gibson put her glass down slowly, like she needed both hands free for the drama. She said that? In your house? Yep, right in my kitchen. Full audience too. Her eyebrows shot up. My lord, that's bold. Bold and stupid. Exactly. So here's the deal. When she comes back, she's going to find she doesn't live here anymore. I'll be changing the locks, redecorating, the works. And when she inevitably melts down on my porch, that's where you come in. Her eyes sparkled. Oh, Isaac, I've been waiting for this day. What's my role? I grinned. Simple. You act surprised. You say, oh, Isaac told me the good news. You're not married, so he celebrated his freedom. Then you mention the redecorating and the dog that I'm going to adopt soon. Tell her I finally wanted loyalty in the house, so I got a St. Bernard. Mrs. Gibson slapped her knee and laughed. That's cruel, I love it. She's going to lose her mind. That's the idea. I need her to feel like she handed me the playbook, and I just ran with it. She leaned forward, conspiratorial. Do I get to ad-lib? Of course, I said, as long as the main beats land. She needs to hear freedom, redecorating, and the dog. The rest is up to your creative talents. She grinned wide. Oh, I'll sell it. Don't you worry. By the time I walked back home, everything was set. Stella thought she'd put me in my place with her little speech. What she didn't realize was that she'd just handed me all the ammunition I needed. I labeled the plan in my head. Operation Bachelor Pad Resurrection. Phase 1. Recruit Gibson. Done. Phase 2. Purge the glitter. Phase 2 of Operation Bachelor Pad Resurrection kicked off the moment I walked back into my house. For 6 months, this place hadn't felt like mine. It had been a showroom for Stella's aesthetic, which was basically beige on beige with a sprinkle of glitter thrown on top. Every surface was smothered in throw pillows, pointless knickknacks, and half-empty bottles of serums that probably cost more than my entire utility bill. But now? Now it was demolition day. I grabbed some heavy-duty boxes, a roll of tape, and a fat black marker. If I was going to pack her stuff, I was going to do it with style. Sarcasm was mandatory. First box. Everyday clothes. Easy enough. Jeans, tops, random leggings. I stacked them neatly, not because I cared, but because I wanted her to open the box later and feel creeped out by how organized it was. Second box. Fancy clothes for fancy outings I wasn't invited to. All the dresses she bought just in case someone took her to a rooftop bar. Spoiler, I never did. She still bought 5 versions of the same dress anyway. Third box. Magic sparkly dresses. Was every one of these things shed glitter like a chemical spill? I'll be finding sparkles in the carpet until the day I die. Shoes. That was a whole operation by itself. 37 pairs, all of them slightly different shades of pain. I dumped them in a box and labeled it, a podiatrist's nightmare. Then came the makeup, the mountain of powders, creams, palettes, brushes, sprays. I didn't even know what half this stuff was for. I grouped it all together and slapped on the label. Face paint and various scoops. The bathroom was a treasure trove of nonsense. Hair masks, curling irons, 12 different shampoos, all apparently necessary because every hair type has different needs. Into the boxes they went. I left the toothbrush and other throwaway bathroom stuff. No point boxing that up. Everything else was documented, boxed, and stored. Here's the thing. I wasn't just tossing stuff. I documented everything. Every box got a quick photo. I texted the photos to myself with timestamps. Box 3 sealed 12:47 p.m. That way, if Stella decided to accuse me of stealing later, I had evidence. By the time I finished, the living room looked like a warehouse. Stack after stack of brown boxes, neatly labeled, taped up like I was preparing for an apocalypse. The only thing missing was a forklift. Time for the heavy lifting. I opened an app, hired a couple of movers, and within an hour they showed up. A pair of guys in their 20s who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. "What's all this?" one asked, staring at the mountain of boxes. "Ex-girlfriend's contribution to clutter," I said. "Destination, storage unit 42, 1-month rental." They grinned. "Got it. We've seen worse." We loaded everything into their truck. I followed them across town to the storage facility, signed the paperwork, paid for 1 month in advance, and got the code to the unit. Then I stacked her belongings neatly inside and locked it up. For the record, it wasn't spiteful. It was generous. Most guys would have put her stuff on the curb and let the weather take care of it. Me? I gave her climate-controlled storage and 30 days to claim it. Honestly, she should have thanked me. I snapped photos of the locked unit, the paperwork, and the receipt. Sent them to myself, time-stamped. Ironclad paper trail. Driving back home, I felt lighter. For the first time in months, I could see my living room floor without tripping over a pile of stilettos. The shelves weren't covered in random decor pieces that looked like rejected art projects. No more bowls of fake fruit. No more inspirational signs that said things like, live, laugh, love. It was my house again. Empty, yeah, but it was honest. And it was ready for phase 3. I stood in the middle of the living room, hands on my hips, and looked around at the blank canvas. The beige rug was next on the chopping block. The sterile couch? Gone soon. And that macrame wall hanging over the bed? Already in a trash bag. I smiled. This wasn't just cleaning. This was reclamation. Every box I packed was one less reminder that I'd been living as a background character in my own house. I could already picture her reaction when she came back and saw it. She'd walk in expecting to sit on her beige couch, toss her shoes by the door, and dump her purse on the counter. Instead, she'd find an entirely different world, a world without her in it. Operation Bachelor Pad Resurrection wasn't just about revenge. It was about balance. Stella wanted to act like she was the star? Fine. She could go back to her parents' place and perform there. My house was no longer her stage. I pulled out my phone and made one last note to myself. Phase 2 complete. Phase 3 starts tomorrow. Rebuild begins. Stella's stuff was boxed, labeled, shipped off to a storage unit where she could collect it, with all the dignity of someone visiting lost and found. My house was clear, my paper trail was solid, and I was finally breathing without the weight of beige throw pillows pressing down on me. Now it was time for phase 3, the rebuild. First, security. I'd already checked the local rules, no lease, no rent paid, and no tenancy rights, so I was clear to swap the deadbolt. The deadbolt on the front door was replaced with a shiny new one that clicked shut like a vault. It was symbolic, sure, but also practical. Stella's key was now nothing more than a chunk of useless metal. She could rattle it in the door all she wanted. She'd get the same access as a stranger. Next came the Wi-Fi. If you want to really mess with someone entitled, cut off their digital oxygen. I logged into the router and renamed the network, Get Your Own Wi-Fi. The new password? Not married lol. Petty? Absolutely. But pettiness is an art form, and I was painting a masterpiece. With the essentials handled, I turned to the house itself. For 6 months, it hadn't felt like mine. Time to change that. The beige rug was first. I rolled it up, dragged it outside, and posted it online. Some college kid picked it up within the hour. I didn't even care about the price. I just wanted it gone. In its place, I unrolled my new centerpiece, an AstroTurf rug designed like a football field. Bold green, white yard lines, end zones. It screamed man cave in the best way possible. Next up, the couch. Stella's white minimalist sofa always looked like it belonged in a showroom where no one was actually allowed to sit. I sold that too and replaced it with a giant black leather recliner sofa. 16 cup holders? 16. It was less a piece of furniture and more a throne system. I sat down, reclined fully, and immediately felt like a king. Coffee table? Gone. In its place, a vintage pinball machine I found on Craigslist. Did it work? Not really, but it lit up, made satisfying clinks, and looked 1,000 times better than her soulless minimalist piece. Functionality was overrated anyway. The walls needed attention. Stella had insisted on hanging macrame wall art above the bed. Stringy, tangled messes that looked like fishing nets gone wrong. Down they came. I replaced them with a framed poster of a grizzly bear mid-lunge, catching a salmon in its mouth. Power, nature, simplicity. Every time I looked at it, I felt like I'd just leveled up. For the record, the rug, couch, and macrame, those were mine, things she pushed me to buy, and they went exactly where they belonged, out the door. Standing back, I could see the transformation taking shape. The house wasn't a sterile museum anymore. It was becoming what it should have always been, my fortress. But it still needed something. Something living. Something loyal. That's when I thought of the animal shelter. Originally, I just planned to browse. See what was there, maybe warm up to the idea of a pet later. But fate doesn't ask for permission. Within an hour, I was driving home with a St. Bernard. His adoption papers sat in the passenger seat, and his giant head rested on my lap while I drove. He drooled enough to soak through my jeans before we even made it home. I named him Gus. The second we walked through the door, he trotted in like he owned the place. He sniffed the football rug, tested the recliner sofa, and then collapsed onto it like he'd been waiting for this exact couch his entire life. Within minutes, he was snoring like a chainsaw, his paws twitching like he was already chasing something in his dreams. Truth is, I'd wanted a dog for years. Always pictured myself with a big one. Something that actually feels like a presence in the room, not one of those purse-sized yappers that bark at shadows. Stella always shut it down. Dogs are disgusting, she'd say, wrinkling her nose. They drool, they smell, they ruin furniture. Absolutely not. The irony? She was describing herself without realizing it. So yeah, Gus might technically be a puppy, but when your puppy is a St. Bernard the size of a coffee table, you've basically skipped the small stage. Exactly the kind of presence I always wanted. By Saturday evening, the house was unrecognizable. What used to look like a beige waiting room now looked like a place someone actually lived in. More importantly, it looked like a place I wanted to live in. It hit me then. This wasn't just a makeover. It was a reset. Every pillow removed, every glitter dress boxed up, every cup holder installed. It all screamed the same message. This is my house, my rules, my life. Sunday was coming fast. I knew Stella would roll up expecting the same setup she left behind, ready to toss her shoes on the floor and complain about how minimalist chic made her feel grounded. Instead, she was going to find Gus, a football rug, a glowing pinball machine, and a front door that no longer opened for her. I pictured the scene, her face pressed to the glass, eyes wide, staring at Gus sprawled across the sofa. She'd lose it. And the best part? Gibson was ready with her lines, rehearsed and waiting for the cue. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt completely at home. No beige prison, no harpies echoing through the walls. Just me, my fortress, and a dog who thought I hung the moon. Phase 3. Complete. Now all that was left was the finale. Stella thought she'd get the last laugh with her little speech about not being married. Cute. The real comedy was about to start the second she tried her useless key in my brand new lock. And I couldn't wait to watch it happen. Sunday night, right around 9 p.m., my phone buzzed with a doorbell cam notification. Showtime. There she was. Stella, back from her glitter parade, dragging her suitcase up the walkway like she was returning from a tour. She looked tanned, smug, humming to herself. She had no clue her key was now about as useful as a paperclip. She slid it into the lock, twisted, and nothing. Tried again. Harder. The deadbolt didn't budge. She frowned, pulled it out, tried again like maybe she forgot how doors work. Still nothing. From my recliner, Gus sprawled across half the couch. I watched the feed on my phone with a soda in one hand and the biggest grin on my face. She let out this loud sigh, the kind people do when their Starbucks order is wrong, and started knocking. Not a polite knock either. Full palm slaps. I ignored it. Then came the calls. My phone lit up with her name, buzzing on the pinball machine where I'd left it. First call? Declined. Second call? Declined. Third, fourth, fifth? Declined. Each time it buzzed, Gus lifted his head, gave me a side eye, then flopped back down with a grunt. Even he was bored. The knocking turned into pounding. She yelled my name through the door, her voice getting higher with every attempt. Isaac, open the door! My key isn't working! What did you do? Still nothing from me. I took another sip and adjusted the recliner. After about 5 minutes of her meltdown, the porch light next door clicked on. Showtime for Act 2. Mrs. Gibson stepped out in her housecoat, holding a watering can like it was part of the script. "Oh, Stella dear, that you?" she called, all warm and fake surprised. Stella spun toward her like a drowning person spotting a lifeguard. "Mrs. Gibson, thank God! I can't get in. My key isn't working. Is Isaac home? I see the lights on." Mrs. Gibson tilted her head, playing the role perfectly. "Oh, he's home all right. Had himself the most wonderful weekend. A real transformation, you might say." Stella blinked. "Transformation? What are you talking about?" "Well, he told me the good news." Gibson leaned on her railing, her voice dripping with sweet concern. "He said you're not married, and he doesn't get a say in what you do. So he decided to celebrate his freedom." Stella's mouth dropped. He what?" "Redecorated the whole place," Gibson said, nodding proudly. "It's a man's house now, very rugged. And the best part? He got himself a dog. A big, beautiful Saint Bernard named Gus. Said he wanted loyalty in the house. Right on cue, Gus let out a deep, rumbling bark from inside, then plopped his head back on the couch. Stella froze like she'd just seen a ghost. She ran to the window, cupping her hands against the glass. From my spot on the sofa, I watched her face pressed to the glass like a kid outside a candy store. Except what she saw was Gus sprawled out like royalty, the football field rug, the glow of the pinball machine, and me lounging like a king in my recliner. Her expression went from confusion to horror in 2 seconds flat. Her jaw literally dropped. Then came the texts. My phone lit up with all-caps novels. "What is this? Where is my stuff? Open the door right now. You can't do this to me." I let her rant for a bit, then finally responded with the single most satisfying message I've ever written. "You said stop acting like we're married. This is my house. Your things are at Storage Way, Unit 42, Code 1234. You have 1 month. Good luck." Then I blocked her. I watched on the feed as she read it, her face contorting like she'd just bitten into a lemon. She looked from her phone to the window, back to her phone, then let out this scream. Pure, unfiltered rage. She hurled her phone onto the lawn, stomped around, and started yelling into the night about how ungrateful and toxic I was. Meanwhile, I cracked open another soda and gave Gus a scratch behind the ears. She paced the porch, ranted to herself, banged on the door a few more times, then finally pulled out her second phone and called Tiffany. 10 minutes later, Tiffany's car pulled up. She climbed in, still gesturing wildly, still yelling, and they drove off. The whole thing was caught on camera. Every second of it. Saved to the cloud, immortalized. I leaned back, set my phone down, and looked over at Gus. He lifted his giant head, drooled on the armrest, and sighed. "Yeah, buddy," I said. "That's what you get." And it was. Stella wanted independence. She got it. Delivered in cardboard boxes, stored under a fluorescent light in Unit 42. She wanted me to stop acting like we were married? Done. She didn't get a say in what I did with my house anymore. For the first time in 2 years, I felt completely in control. And it felt damn good. The morning after Stella's meltdown, I knew exactly what was coming. She wasn't going to sit quietly and reflect. No, she was going to take it to her favorite stage, social media. Sure enough, by noon my feed was full of her and the Harpies, broadcasting like they were running a TED Talk for bitter breakups. Sad acoustic music playing over black and white selfies, captions about toxic men and cutting out negativity, long paragraphs about how sometimes you have to walk away to know your worth. She even threw in a couple of vague quotes, the kind people repost thinking it makes them look wise. Stuff like, "Never settle for a man who fears a strong woman's independence," or "Better to cry in a car alone than be silenced in someone else's house." And it was a performance exactly like I expected. And her audience, our mutuals, ate it up at first. Likes, heart emojis, comments like, "You go, girl! Proud of you! Cut that dead weight!" I scrolled through it all, Gus's head in my lap, and couldn't stop grinning. Because I knew how short-lived it would be. The one thing Stella had forgotten? Receipts always beat drama. I let her play victim for 2 days straight. 48 hours of her painting me as some controlling, bitter boyfriend who couldn't handle a free spirit. Tiffany and Brittany were reposting her rants with their own digs. Little jabs about how men who pay bills think they own you. Chardonnay jumped in too, trying to sound deep. A woman doesn't owe you gratitude for letting her exist in your space? Cute. Except it wasn't her space. And I had the mortgage to prove it. By day 3, I was bored. Gus and I had better things to do than watch a sad influencer campaign that looked like it had been cut and pasted from Pinterest. So I decided to end it. I opened my socials, switched the privacy so only mutual friends could see, and uploaded a 3-photo album. Photo 1, my living room before. Beige couch, beige rug, beige wall art. A coffee table that looked like IKEA had given up halfway. Caption, before. Photo 2, the same living room now. The black recliner sofa with 16 cup holders, the football field rug, the glowing pinball machine. Gus sprawled across the couch like he owned it. Caption, after. Photo 3, a selfie of me and Gus. He looked majestic in his slobbery way, tongue lolling out, me grinning ear to ear. Caption, decided to redecorate based on my new relationship status. Was told I'm not married and don't get a say, so I embraced my freedom. Meet Gus, my loyal roommate. That was it. No long rant, no insults, just photos and a caption. It was a nuclear bomb. My notifications blew up within minutes. Mutual friends who had been leaving heart emojis on Stella's sob stories suddenly weren't so supportive anymore. The comments came rolling in. Wait, so she really told you that in your house? Dude, Gus is adorable. Upgrade of the year. Living the dream, man. Respect. Lamau, she really thought she could spin this? Nah, context matters. Some of her supporters even deleted their original comments on her posts. Others started side-eyeing her stories with skeptical replies like, "There's two sides to every story." Stella's narrative collapsed almost instantly. It's hard to play victim when the supposed villain is sitting there posting adorable selfies with a giant Saint Bernard. She went quiet for a day. Then the anger started bleeding through her posts. Suddenly it wasn't about empowerment anymore. It was about betrayal. Some men are pathetic enough to weaponize pets against you. Imagine being so small you throw out someone's things while they're gone. Her comment section wasn't buying it. By the end of the week, she'd stopped posting altogether. That should have been the end of it. But Stella wasn't wired to let things go. When attention dried up online, she tried the legal route. I came home one afternoon to a letter taped to my door. A demand letter from some local lawyer, written in the most dramatic legalese possible. According to them, I had wrongfully withheld Stella's personal property, denied her rightful access to the residence, and caused financial harm by rendering her effectively homeless. They demanded I let her back in immediately, or else. I didn't panic. I called my lawyer, explained everything, gave him the receipts, the timestamps, the storage unit code, the fact that she'd lived here rent-free for 6 months. He drafted a reply that was so polite it bordered on savage. Attached were copies of my mortgage statement, my name only, utility bills, also my name only, and a copy of the property deed or title showing the home is solely in my name. We also stated on the record that there's no lease or cohabitation tenancy agreement with Stella. Then came the storage unit receipt, paid a month in advance, plus time-stamped photos of her things neatly stacked inside. And finally, the closing paragraph. Since your client is asserting financial damages, please clarify whether she intends to reimburse Mr. Wilson for the 6 months of rent, utilities, and groceries she has consumed while living in his home without legal or financial contribution. I laughed so hard I nearly cried reading it. It was like watching someone swing a baseball bat and hit themselves in the face. Days went by. No reply. A week later, my lawyer called to say the other side had gone completely silent. They'd figured it out. The case was unwinnable, and pressing it would only make Stella look worse. That was the moment it really sunk in. The game wasn't just over. I'd won. Completely. Stella had tried everything. Public shaming, social media victimhood, legal threats. And every single move had backfired because she forgot the golden rule. When you live in someone else's house, on someone else's dime, while treating them like an accessory, you don't get to claim ownership when the lights turn off. By the time the dust settled, my house was peaceful again. No harpies stomping through the kitchen, no beige decor making it look like a dentist's office, no lectures about how dogs were disgusting. Just me, Gus, and a recliner that felt like a throne. I looked at Gus sprawled out one evening, his snores rattling the cup holders, and couldn't help but smirk. Stella had mocked me for wanting a dog. She said they drooled, smelled, ruined furniture. And now, here was Gus, drooling on my new sofa, snoring loud enough to rattle the windows. And I'd never been happier. Freedom isn't always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like a Saint Bernard hogging your couch and a Wi-Fi password that says, "Not married lol." But in that moment, it was perfect. And Stella? She was somewhere else. Probably still trying to explain to her parents why her big independence speech ended with her moving back into her old bedroom. I didn't have to imagine how that conversation went. Word got around fast. At first, she crashed at Tiffany's place. Lasted less than a week. Apparently, Tiffany didn't appreciate Stella stomping around like a guest of honor while never pitching in for rent or groceries. Shocker. Brittany offered to let her crash too, but that fizzled within days. The Harpies were good for group selfies, not long-term housing. So, back to her parents she went. Small town, 3 hours away. The same parents she used to roll her eyes at for being controlling. Now she was unpacking her bags in her childhood bedroom, pretending she meant to take some time to reflect. Translation: she had nowhere else to go. Meanwhile, my life was the calmest it had been in years. The house was mine again. The football rug looked glorious. The recliner was molded to my shape. The pinball machine still didn't work, but it glowed nicely at night and made a great conversation starter. And Gus? Gus was thriving. He'd grown so much in just a few weeks he was already hogging more couch space than me. Loyal, drooling, funny. Basically the opposite of Stella in every category that mattered. I thought that was the end of it. Until one Saturday at the dog park. Gus was busy trying to fit 3 tennis balls in his mouth at once when I heard someone clear their throat behind me. I turned and there she was. Chardonnay, the third harpy. She looked nothing like the smug girl who'd laughed in my kitchen weeks earlier. She looked nervous, awkward, like she'd been rehearsing this in her head all morning. "Hey, Isaac," she said softly. I gave her a nod. "Chardonnay." She winced. "That's not actually my name." "Yeah, well, you never introduced yourself properly, so that's what stuck." She gave a half smile, then sighed. "Look, I wanted to apologize. About that night. We were out of line. Stella was leading the show and we just went along with it." I shrugged. "She said what she said. I just believed her." Chardonnay nodded slowly. "I know. She called me last week, actually. Complaining about how everything was your fault. Said you ruined her life." I chuckled. "Ruined her life?" I boxed up her glitter dresses and gave her a storage unit code. "That's not ruining someone's life. That's giving them a chance to start fresh." "She doesn't see it that way," Chardonnay admitted. "She thinks you blindsided her." "Funny," I said, tossing a ball for Gus. "She thought I didn't get a say in anything. Now she doesn't get a say either. Fair trade." Chardonnay didn't argue. She just gave Gus a pat on the head and said, "Honestly, it looks like you're doing fine." Then she walked off, leaving me with the dog and the tennis balls. And she was right. I was doing more than fine. The house was peaceful again. I kept every receipt, every photo of the boxes, every clip from the doorbell cam, just in case Stella ever tried to make noise again. But she didn't. She was too busy blaming everyone else for her own mess. Every night I'd sit back in my recliner, Gus snoring like a freight train beside me, and look around at the house. No beige prison, no fake aesthetic, no harpies echoing down the hallway. Just a man, his dog, and a living room that finally looked like home. And that's when it hit me. Revenge doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes the best move is the simplest one. Take people at their word. Stella told me I wasn't her husband, told me I didn't get a say, so I stopped acting like I did. She got exactly what she claimed she wanted. Freedom. Now she had no say in my life, and I had no say in hers. Balance restored. The pinball machine still doesn't work, by the way. But Gus thinks the blinking lights are fascinating. And between his loyalty, his slobbery grin, and his complete lack of drama, I'd say I finally found the perfect roommate. So yeah, Stella said I wasn't her partner, wasn't her equal, wasn't her husband. She was right. And believing her turned out to be the smartest thing I ever did.